Do you think Romney is a robot?
We need a Turing test to determine that.
Or a CAPTCHA.
What's a CAPTCHA?
A CAPTCHA is an online test that determines whether the viewer is either a human or a robot.
Are we there yet?
The Robot Film Festival?
Now to the Robot Film Festival.
Do you mind if we interview?
I told you to stop texting while driving. I told you 1,000 times, do not text and drive. See what happens?
I know, but there's so much going on, and in Pennsylvania it's only $50 to text and drive.
What is your name?
My name is Dead Wrong. I'm with Zombie Etiquette, and this is Professor Pandora. Over here.
It's an honor and a privilege to meet you, sir.
And it's an honor to meet you as well. We're shooting interviews here from the Robot Film Festival.
The Robot Film Festival is an extremely important event for this entire industry of robotics. Do you know why?
No, tell me why.
Because it visually depicts extremely important messages about where the industry is going. It helps to talk about different philosophies and engineering approaches for many applications in the field of robotics, including robots that can help people. The theme this year is, can robots be your best friends? And we looked at a movie this afternoon about a Google car that is able to drive all by itself so that a blind driver can actually go to work and shop and things like that.
So in a car like that, I could text and drive.
This is the car you need.
I need this car, yes. So...
Are we being videotaped?
We are.
And who is this charming young lady?
Hi, I'm Professor Pandora.
I am honored to make your acquaintance.
Nice to meet you too.
You're pretty.
Oh, you're pretty too.
Would you like to stand on my platform and have a dance with me?
Sure, why not?
Hold my shoulders.
Okay, baby, let's go.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
May I play some music?
Yes, if it's good.
Your party, the way I'm disco dancing. I'm a model, you know what I mean. And I do my little turn on the catwalk. My little turn on the catwalk.
That has got to be the sexiest robot at this show. I think they're having too much fun.
For this moment of friendship.
You got a second?
Okay.
Stand right on this mark right here.
Alright.
What do I have to...
Wait, so you guys are interviewing Daniel in zombie makeup?
Yes.
That's amazing.
So you're Marilyn Monrobot.
Marilyn Monrobot's my theater company. Absolutely. My name is Heather Knight.
Heather, it's such a pleasure to be here at your event. Tell me about what you're doing here tonight.
So we are at the Robot Film Festival, the world's only film festival dedicated to robots. So we celebrate short films and storytelling about robots annually in New York City.
Fantastic. I feel like there are more people here than robots. Is this fair?
Actually, what's really unfair is that robots get into our event for free, and people have to pay like full price.
Well, that makes sense because robots don't have jobs. Usually.
Robots have jobs, and they're underpaid and overworked, and they're taking jobs away from people, right?
It's true.
Their paycheck is still a lot worse.
So who are some of the participants tonight?
We have all kinds of crazy people. So tonight you will see researchers that have built their own robots. You will see filmmakers that are experimenting with CGI, or actors in suits, or all kinds of really amazing storytelling that could reshape our future use of technology. We have people like Google and NPR Marketplace that have been looking at the impact of machines and robots in our everyday lives and been exploring some of those questions of automation. We have a lot of stuff about robots as companions, like how could we form positive relationships with machines, like friendly systems, and where do those things fall short? Our theme this year is Are Robots Man's New Best Friend? We kind of want to explore both sides. I think right now it's really cool to be a nerd and techno-optimist, and everyone uses the latest gadget, the latest iPad, the latest phone all the time. One great thing about robots is they're kind of like an artifact that can act as a metaphor for all technology. So we can really explore our relationships with machines.
So Turing was one of my heroes. I loved him for his strangeness of his life and all his accomplishments. He created this idea of a Turing test.
Correct.
If a robot could fool you into thinking it was human, do you think that we're at the stage where we've passed the Turing test yet?
I mean, the Turing test is only for it was originally made for a teletype machine, so it's only text messaging. So if a machine could trick us at text messaging, it could basically pass the Turing test. And yeah, I mean, a lot of the time that's true. I mean, the thing is, for sustained interactions, eventually you probably would figure it out, but if you limit it to a certain length of time. But in terms of actually making a physical machine that can pass the Turing test, or an extended version that involves embodiment and expression and the knowledge of the nuance of social.
Are you saying a robot could Twitter?
Lots of robots do tweet.
Was that you, or was that your robot?
That was my robot.
Or maybe it was a collaboration between you and your pocket robot.
This is true. I think Siri is actually already doing all these things. My kids have taken Siri and be like, Siri, you're wonderful. And she's like, I may be great, but I'm not wonderful. And I mean, if you ask your iPhone certain questions, she will respond. And they've even asked if she could marry them. And she's like, I'm sorry, but that's not in my program.
Now, I found that she doesn't really have much of a sense of humor.
She totally does.
I asked her, I said, what do we do with the body? And, I got this, well, call 911, and this is how you dispose of a body. And I was, thinking, well, Heather, thank you so much for having us here and letting us join your event. It's really fun.
Keep spreading the robot love.
I have one last question. Is this the first year for this festival?
Last year we opened with a Spike Jones short called I Am Here. It's a robot love story. It's pretty fantastic. We have a big gallery of our films online.
Cool.
All right.
How are you guys?
We're good. Thanks, Daniel. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Absolutely. It was a total pleasure. I see you're a little bloodied up.
Before I get to the reason that you're here, teenage pop star girl, I want to ask you about Lolita. Has she been released from captivity? Is she still missing from her family?
No, Lolita was separated from her mother in 1970, which is over 43 years now. She's been living in isolation for 43 years in basically what amounts to a very, very small area. And there's a lot of people that are trying to get her back to her family, but unfortunately it's taking a long time, and there's a lot of obstacles. So right now nothing has changed.
I was crushed by your PSA. I mean, as much as a person that eats brains could be, by a situation. What can people do to help?
A couple of things. One, you can absolutely write to the USDA. Because they're in charge of APHIS, which is the organization of the USDA that's in charge of the care of animals in this country. So you can write to them and let them know that her conditions, the tank that she lives in is actually illegal by their own regulations. So you can write to them, email them, and let them know that the regulations are not being enforced. That's number one. Number two is you can basically, kind of in a little bit of the bigger picture, just refuse to go to any facility or entertainment facility that has dolphins or whales in entertainment purposes in captivity. They just don't belong in tanks.
So that would totally shut down a place like SeaWorld.
And not necessarily shut the entire park down, just don't keep whales and dolphins in captivity. There are other, the Monterey Aquarium, I applaud them very, very much. They're the only aquarium, I think, in the country that does not keep whales and dolphins in captivity for that very reason.
They could do it without harming animals, I would think.
Absolutely. And one of the big arguments that people say is that people need to see these animals alive in captivity in order to be inspired by them. And what I like to say in response to that is take a look at a dinosaur. Look at dinosaurs. Tell me if dinosaurs inspire 6-year-old kids, 6-year-old boys. They love them. They're enthralled by them. Not one single human being has seen a real dinosaur to be inspired by them. There's no reason.
Make a robot, like a robot killer whale.
Well, that's actually one of the first things that came to my mind. Yeah, I mean, at the Toys R Us in Manhattan, we've got a T-Rex.
The animatronic killer whales has been brought up a lot, and a lot of people are talking about it. You can do an IMAX movie with killer whales. They could be CGI. You could be swimming in with a pod. There's a lot of great things.
A director that we could, would you do that with us? Animatronic?
I would.
What got you involved in the whole plight of Lolita?
What had happened was about 2 years ago, a killer whale named Tilikum had killed its trainer Don Brancheau in SeaWorld. So I was very, very interested in that, and I didn't see anything wrong with captivity. And in going through the internet and Facebook and YouTube, I started realizing and educating myself that these animals are really, really stressed and just don't belong in a small environment. And I ended up seeing a documentary on Lolita called Lolita, Slave to Entertainment. And after seeing that documentary, I was heartbroken. It's a really, really sad story, and it just surprises me that people can continue to treat animals this way in 2012.
Wow. Well, I mean, there was that thing that you and I were talking about before with Lennox, the dog that was killed in Belfast because he was a bully breed.
Yeah.
He was taken away from his family 2 years ago and held in something kind of like what we have, the ACC here.
Yeah.
And but the Facebook page that got the whole world involved in this thing was really powerful. Is there something like that for Lolita?
Yes, there's SaveLolita.com. You can go to SaveLolita.org. Type in Save Lolita on Facebook. You'll get Facebook pages. There's also a group called the Orca Network in Washington State. They have a Facebook page. And there's also another organization that's very good called the Orca Project. They all have Facebook pages. Go to those pages. You can educate yourself in a fairly short amount of time and find out what's going on and how to help.
Yeah, that's great. The internet is an amazing thing.
Yeah.
So what I started to think about when you talked about the lifespan in captivity was what, and I don't mean to be flippant, but what is the lifespan of a teenage pop star? How long can they live in captivity?
Well, teenage pop stars can actually live indefinitely, because if you watch Teenage Pop Star Girl, the video, you will find out that when one gets obsolete, they're very easily replaced. And there's a huge queue of them waiting to be made and produced and put out there, so they will be here forever, waiting to manipulate and influence young children.
I felt like she was such a product with her doll and her cereal and her... Was everything about her a product?
Well, that was the whole idea, that she was basically a manufactured icon, to show that these performers, not all pop stars are like this, but a specific type, are basically a manufactured tool, basically like you would have a poster or a CD or a DVD. They're created, they're processed, they're manufactured, and they're manufactured to create an image to influence an audience.
Now, I have a question. I know that you direct a lot of commercials.
Yes.
Was that, having been your background, anything that influenced you to make this? Because it seems like...
Yeah, probably subconsciously in the back a little bit. I have to be honest, I personally just am obsessed with fembots, and I love robots and fembots and, revealing people to be robots. So when I heard the song from Whisperado, Teenage Pop Star Girl, this idea just came to me, and I just was really excited to do it for the fun aspect of it. But of course, I definitely have a message in there, and that was part of it.
How many days did you shoot?
We shot approximately 7 shoot days. We had a green screen shoot day, and then we did about, I'd say, 3 or 4 half days. So the whole thing total was about 7 shoot days. In New York City was the concert scene, and then we actually shot in New Jersey for a lot of the exteriors.
And what did you shoot on?
We shot on the Canon 5D.
Oh, I've been hearing so much about the 5D.
Shooting this interview on.
Oh, awesome.
But I have to say, that I shot with the 5D along with cinematographer Milton Cam, who's just really brilliant and a genius, and I love working with him, and he really made that look of the video come to life.
And so you think it was the way it was shot and not any kind of good post-production coloring? Or was that also, did they work together?
No, well, I do coloring myself, so coloring was a huge part in it. And so that was definitely part of the look. And I always imagine or figure out what the color and the look of a movie is going to be before I even do anything. So that's kind of already decided upon, and then you tweak the colors in post. So that was definitely one of the specific things I wanted to accomplish with it.
I love the colors. I want to take off on that concept of bringing it to life. At the end, she pulled her out of the garbage. She took her home in her little red wagon. I hope I'm not spoiling it, but and she brought her to life. And was it software or love, or what did she give her that brought her to life?
Well, that's interesting you bring that up, because I knew that it could be interpreted several ways. It could be interpreted that she basically removed the programming from the robot and freed it so that it could have its own sentience and basically become a person. Or you could kind of look at it as she was a person and she became robotized, somehow being a pop star, and then she removed it and she went back to being a person. Yeah, so I think either way you could look at it, and it doesn't mind to me how people come across or go away with that. But the important thing is that there was goodness that was basically brought out, and it actually was this whole Robot Festival is about, that Heather Knight has put together, which is really incredible, is what is exactly a robot? And if we have the power to create a robot, do we have to be accountable to how we treat them?
That's fascinating. It reminds me of that movie, I, Robot.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Brilliant film.
And also Battlestar Galactica, the sci-fi reboot, deals a lot about with the Cylons and robotics, and they basically created themselves, and they feel they have emotions and feelings, and should they be treated as such?
Is it Pygmalion and Pinocchio? And I mean, how far back does this go? Narcissus? I don't know.
Well, I mean, you have Narcissus, you have you have the Fritz Lang's Metropolis robot, which is back in 1917, you know, and actually the Robot Film Festival showed a film that showed the history of the robot, and they were talking about robot. The word robot actually, I believe, means a slave or a forced worker. And that's where the beginnings of the concept of a robot came way before, even before like we were in the Industrial Revolution. I don't know the
scary.
specifics. Yeah, I don't know. You'd have to look it up. Maybe like cut to it and do some research. But the beginning of a robot was definitely a long time ago, or the concept of a robot.
Wow, it's really fascinating.
And, you know, it is incredible stuff. Anything else you like the bulletproof makeup thing that I saw that you did? Is there really such a thing as bulletproof makeup?
Yes, absolutely. It's called bulletproof airbrush makeup. It's an application technique that's provided by Faces, which is in www.facesportfolio.com, and they have developed a silicone-based airbrush makeup that they apply, and it's really for professional applications, but now it's a lot for weddings as well, because when you put it on in the morning, it stays all day and you look really good. So it's really great for if you're getting married, because you could get sprayed in the morning and then look amazing, you know, at 3 o'clock in the morning when you're getting ready to go on your honeymoon.
Make Professor Pandora look human again?
It probably could. They probably would have to put a special extra, you know, a batch of silicone in it, but I think it probably would work. It's pretty amazing stuff. Yeah, but it was a lot of fun, and that was a product that we were kind of having fun with, and kind of giving it a Matrix sci-fi slant to it to kind of make it fun.
That is cool.
Yeah, it was cool. It was like ultraviolet a little bit.
Yeah, ultraviolet was absolutely an influence of mine. The Matrix was what I was given. They wanted something like the Matrix, but I actually saw ultraviolet, and even though I thought the movie was a little like kind of cheesy, but visually it was very stylized, and I love stylized pieces, and I really like that movie a lot, you know. So that was definitely an influence.
It reminds me a little bit of that music video from, I guess, the 90s, Black Hole Sun.
Oh, can you describe it a little bit?
Garden. Yeah,
right. Exactly.
And they're all like 1950s style, doing their nails, and like, and the atom bombs are going off. It's nihilist.
I have to. Their faces get like.
I did not see that.
Oh, you have seen
okay.
it. I
okay.
You. Yeah.
Okay.
Should we kill him or let him live? What do you think?
Oh, I didn't know that was.
You know, that head looks pretty yummy.
Looks pretty good.
And we know the brain is good inside.
No!